Hey, we're back and we're here with the CEO of the hottest social network that's launched in the last couple months, Steve Krouse of val.town. Okay, how is that for an intro?
Love it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty
Okay.
good.
Are you not under threat from all these like activity pub things coming your way? Is that concerning at all?
Not particularly. I have vague aspirations and hopes that like val.town could become more of a social network beyond like right now it's only tangentially a social network, or it's like it's a social network mediated by code. So it's closer to npm than it is to Twitter today, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow it gets closer to a social network. But it's fuzzy how that could happen.
Cool. No, it's just fun. I think it's just kind of fun that we're in this revitalization period for the whole social
Yeah.
networking. So I think it's great that you're pushing on the social stuff. I feel like I want to poke someone's Val. I feel like that could be a good start. Bring that back from Facebook.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
that's a good, like poke might not be the right verb, but I like the idea, like what you're pointing at. Like I wanna interact with this thing, send someone a notification about this thing.
Yeah.
What's a val?
Anyway,
Tell us, Steve.
yeah,
This is
what are we even talking
we have
about?
a
Yeah.
whole
What is a
town
Val?
of them, but what's even one?
Should I share my screen or just talk in the air? What
Yeah, yeah.
how we
Oh,
do
I'd love
things
that.
here?
Please.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll share my screen. Uh, let's see. All right. One sec. All right. So I have my lovely poem up here. If GitHub GIS could run and AWS Lambda were fun, that is what we're going for at val.town. val.town is a snippet of JavaScript or TypeScript that you write on our website. It runs on our servers, and we give you a URL that you can share with friends, kind of like a GitHub GIST URL, but also kind of like Lambda. It's immediately runnable, invocable via an API. So some of the best of both worlds. It's also one click to schedule it to run on an interval. There's some helpers to persist data, send emails to yourself, and you can import your own code and other people's code as easily as you tag someone on Twitter with like the @ symbol at stevekrouse.foo. Will give you a variable called foo from my namespace. Boom, like right in your code. And yeah, I could pause there.
What
Oz,
what
have
are
you tried
some
it
of
out
the?
yet?
Sorry, Charlie.
I was just say, have you tried it out yet, Oz?
I've not. No, I've not. But
It is sweet. I played with it already, and I've done my favorite thing is console.email. Me being a prolific console.logger, print debugging for the win. This lets you, like, especially if you combine it with the cron stuff, you can email yourself every day. So if you want to like scrape some website, Steve, I feel like I've seen some good use cases around people looking up the tides for surfing and things like that,
Yep,
and then sending you that.
totally.
It just, yeah, it makes it really easy.
Thank you. Yeah, let's see. Let's find some cool. So you can like pull Hacker News every 15 minutes, hour, day, whatever, for keyword matches, for posts from people you want to follow. So that's this is one of our like most popular vals. We turned it into like a mini app, and I could talk about this. Like there's a funny tension between a script and an app that you like install. This is really just like a script that you fork, where we just change the buttons to like say the install and say the word install, but really it's just like a fork kind of a thing. So, oh yeah, I guess I can kind of walk through the code. Let's see. So it takes an array, and then it pulls Hacker News for latest posts, and then it gets these posts, formats them into like an HTML email, and then if there are any posts, it will send you an email using that console.email thing. And so I guess there's a lot going on here, but one thing I'll call your attention to is how like small and snippety and composable each of these pieces are. Like each val is defined in terms of other vals, which are defined in terms of other vals. We've made a diagram here for this particular one to show like how this val is defined in terms of this val, which is defined in terms of this val, which is defined in terms of this val, and finally hits like the Agolia Hacker News API. So anyways, that's one use case.
So Steve, this is
Yeah.
you know, obviously designed to be the next unicorn. It'll blow up, and you mostly started it to make a lot of money. But give us the origin story. Like, did you have a did you have like a particular user experience in mind, a particular kind of programmer or a particular kind of programming that you wanted to build this for?
Great. Yeah, great question. There are a couple different ways to tell this story. The proximate answer to your question, like the real instigation of val.town was I'm starting kind of in the middle. I like had long wanted to start a developer tools programming languages company. And we can talk about why that was something I wanted to do. And there was this investor that had invested in a lot of successful dev tool companies, and we became friendly. And I asked him what I should work on, and he was like, "I have this idea for you," and it was really the idea for val.town. So that's the proximate cause of where val.town came
Steve,
from.
I feel like I did a little poking around your website, and you're definitely one of those people who I aspire to be the sort of working in public type person, kind of to the extreme. So I encourage people to check out your website. It's amazing. I think I do a good job setting goals for myself, and I've got a lot to learn. But I feel like this idea, you've been poking at this for many years. I saw this project where you were thinking about how can I blow up spreadsheets to be able to talk to each other. And I know you've,
Yeah.
I wanted to spend some time talking about even the earlier stuff you're working on. But for me, I feel like val.town looks like it's, I don't know if it's a culmination, but it's this second or third wave of something you've been really tugging at for a while.
Yeah. So great point. Yeah, from another perspective, like this VC telling me what to work on is like a totally dishonest telling of the story, because I've been like prototyping towards something like val.town for a long time. Like I guess if you just look at the slice of like an IDE in your web browser that runs like server-side code, that's something that I've researched a lot. I've always been like a user of those services. Like I was a big user of Cloud9 back in the day, and Replit and things like that. But I never saw, like, where the VC comes in is I never saw like the business potential for something like this. Like I didn't see how big it could be if you get it right, and like some core strategy decisions of like what not to work on, what to work on. And so a lot of that came from the venture capitalist. He took a lot of the work I was doing and was like, drop most of it, like let's just nail this one piece, and like here's how it could be a really scalable venture backable business. And yeah, so it was a good combination of like many years of research and prototyping with someone who had like a business vision.
So it sort of got you out of the idea maze where like you could be exploring things forever, and it said just carve this. Okay, interesting.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. Like
So-
before him, I was working on like backend as a service kind of stuff. I was working on a front end framework. He was like, no. You want to be running server side code. You want to be the default place where everyone goes to write code. You want instead of linking to Postman, you want every API to be linking to vals. Like, here's how you call me. Here are like vals that have called me in the past. Fork these vals. You can call me via these vals. You just want to be like, yeah, there should be no dead code on the internet. And anytime someone wants to explain a computer science concept, it should be an embedded val. Like he had like this vision for that, and it made a lot of sense to me, especially because I'm like really inspired by Twitter and like a web primitive, GitHub repos, Twitter tweets, val.town vals. That's like part of what we're trying to do with
Oz, I know you're trying to
jump
jump in too, but
sorry,
it feels like the only equivalent is something that feels way heavier, whether it's like a Jupyter notebook and you have to like get, in a collab environment, or even like pull up GitHub code spaces. Whereas I feel like val.town, you've settled on something where I'm instantly editing. I'm instantly there, and I can just shift enter and I go. And that to me feels majorly different from what I've seen before. But Oz, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's, when people talk about programming, if they say the word programmer or software engineer or something, like they're immediately talking about themselves. They're describing the kind of programmer who's themselves. But there's such a broad range of people who are manipulating software, and it's very hard to draw the line at some point. It's like, okay, now you're working with a Turing complete language. Like, so what? Like, someone else who's not doing that is
Yeah.
achieving other things. Like, isn't that the important thing? Or, okay, you're clicking buttons as part of it. Like, does that really matter? Like, if you've got a mental model of how the clicking buttons manipulates the code, is that like less programmy than someone who's typing, but who has less of an understanding of how the verbal tokens are doing things? So anyway, there's this broad spectrum, and I'm really interested to hear like Steve's personal motivation to go after this group of programmers, which, you know, is also us at certain times, right? Like, Charlie, you're not going to build big systems on this next year, but and you are going to build big systems in other ways that you're going to run yourself, but you're going to do your own projects where you don't want a big system for this, and this is going to be the best tool for the job for some things that you do. I'm going to be interested in like the person for whom this is the best tool for the job most of the time, or even all the time. And I assume that for Steve, there's this like, I mean, there are a lot of people out there. I shouldn't say a lot, a handful of people out there who are very motivated by delivering something for end user programmers. Even that term's a bit weird. Like, where do you draw the line on end user programmer? Like, you know, what about the person who's just a little bit beyond that, who prefers to use these tools but could use something else? But anyway, there is a draw towards that kind of programmer where it's not about like the power tools that professional or, you know, many hours of the day programmers are using or something. Very cautious about all these words. I want to create caveats and not like not box any program into any place. But Steve, I'm wondering, like, is there a legible motivation that you have for building tools for, let's say, this audience, for want of a better word, however you want to describe this audience?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe I'll start by saying that I want, like, the plan has always been to start with like a wedge and then expand. So we want to serve, we want to like keep expanding like the audience of programmers we serve, and one day we do want to win fairly scalable real world use cases. Like, will Facebook ever use us to run like core Facebook infrastructure? Probably not. Will Facebook use us to like show off examples in their documentation? Hopefully. But like, will like medium-sized startups use us, or like medium-sized companies? I hope so. Like that is the plan. And so like from that perspective, it was more about sequencing. Like, we could have built a system that was like very reliable and scalable, but less usable to start, and then like try to improve usability. But we kind of went the other way, where we're trying to build a system that's really easy, fun to use, but not that scalable. And we're trying to add the scalability down the line. So I just want to start there. Why did we start the way we did? It just felt like that was where the opportunity was. Like, if you want something scalable, there's already AWS Lambda, there's already Cloudflare, there's like everything already exists in that. Like, there are a lot of competitors in that space, when like it felt like the real innovation for us was building this like new web primitive thing that was like easy to use, quick to get started. It's like it merges a place where you're writing and running and developing code like a REPL, but like also it's like instantly deployed. So it felt like there was
So
more of an opportunity there.
A couple episodes ago, Oz and I were chatting, and Steve, a lot of our podcast theme has been around and finding ways to do that. And we've been unpacking you and your research by Hamming out of Bell Labs, and I know you're a big researcher into that stuff. And it was a couple weeks ago, and I was really excited about something. I even talked about it on the podcast, and it was me recreating this long defunct startup called olife.com, and I think it was even a YC company back in the day. And I think maybe this is part of the problem. All it was a way where it kept a daily journal, and it emailed you every day with a prior entry, and you just replied to it, and it saved it and then flung it back to you. And then I did this for about a year, and then the company went under, and I found val.town, and I very quickly started having fun. And that having fun feeling led me down this direction where I basically re-implemented. I remember I reached out to you on Discord for some help with this. And I'm still halfway there, but I was able to re-implement this thing. And I came back to Oz, and I was like, Oz, I had fun programming. And Oz was like, great. And I was like, Oz, do you want me to tell you about it? And Oz was like, I don't even care. I'm just happy that you had fun. And I feel like that is a really good wedge for me. And then I think like I would like to bring that to work, and I also feel like there are folks. I feel like you've done an analogy with Zapier and some of these other like marketing automation-y type tools, where this gives you like a little bit more for folks who get really good at that, if they want to go slightly under the hood. So I don't know. I just want to say I think the tackling fun and having fun a wedge really worked for me. Is that fun thing? I know it's in your mantra at the beginning, but I feel like you've achieved that, and it feels like you're deliberately headed towards that. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're complimenting me in the way that I'd like to be complimented. That's exactly what we're going for. And like going back for like the first conversation I had with my investor, Dan, he was like, he's like, I'm gonna know you're succeeding if people are doing weird niche things in your platform that are just like cool and yeah. And so like that's exactly what we're going for. The like weird, it's like it's important that it's not enterprisey or startup-y to start. Like it should be very much fun. And then like I think the genius behind it is like you were like, I want to bring that to work. And it's like almost you want to bring the feeling of fun to work. And it's like why we want to bring, like you want to bring GitHub into work. And it's like the bottom-up sales motion of a lot of like developer tools companies, where it's like fun at a hackathon, and you want to bring fun into your day job where like eventually you can make money. But yeah, we're still in that fun phase for sure.
The most fun thing about that would be if you could walk in and be like, Monday morning, obviously, and be like, hey, that legacy 100,000 line system that everyone hated maintaining, where there were cryptic error messages all the time, I just blew it all up. I just came in over the weekend, placed it with a couple of vals, like called other vals, and that's it. We've got this now. That would be fun.
Yeah,
particularly if you get fired for it. Wouldn't that be fantastic? You just like do this heroic act. Everyone loves you for it, except management, because you made someone look bad. And I mean, this is just me fantasizing, showing up, fixing Zoom, and replacing a couple of things, the weight room logic with a val, and then leaving again.
You haven't had to deal with a manager in a while, so that's
I know.
Yeah, you're lucky.
You're saying I'm already having fun?
Yeah, you're already having fun.
I'm sure you're a fun manager, Charlie.
I'm fun. Yeah, I'm great.
You encourage
I would love if people. I should encourage people to use Val.
So
here's the thing, Steve. Yeah, I know. It's hard to see you. I feel like one of the problems with enterprise world is like, oh, but it has to be on-prem. And are you just ignoring all that? Have you started to hear that nonsense about like we don't want to send our data? Or are you not even engaging yet with folks who might have those sort of concerns?
Yeah, it hasn't really come up yet. Not in a practical way. Like occasionally people will make an offhand comment about it, but usually I don't hear about it. Like people just, if they just start using us at work and they're just using us at work, it either works or it doesn't. Yeah, I like my one success story, or like one of my best success stories is someone started using us at work and paying for us. And then they forgot that they were paying for us, and they signed up again and started paying for us a second time. And I sent them an email being like, "Hey, you're paying for us twice," and they were like, "Good for you." It was like such a cheap amount. Like we charge $10 a month that they were like, they won't notice. Like I'm happy to pay $20 a month. You're a great service. So like that's the stage I'm at. They're like, the people they're like free programmers who are like $10 a month. This is way too expensive. Like I want to pay per usage. I want to be paying 3 cents a month because that's all I'm using. And then there are like people at companies who are like, this is nobody's even going to notice if I accidentally pay for 2 subscriptions.
Do you feel as if are you enthusiastic about the business side of this problem space? Yeah, because very much you're going for a company rather than, hey, this is an open source tool that I'm throwing out there in the world and you can kind of deploy it on your own. And I feel like that might distract you from working on console.sms or console.push notification that I saw you talking about. So there's so many fun product tech oriented things. Your CEO, you or someone else you hire is going to have to be business hat. Is that concerning at all? Is that something you want to be doing?
No, yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's just, I think it's like not the current stage. Like the current stage is like, I got to build a lovable product that people tell their friends about. And like the main challenge I'm working on right now is I want vals to go viral. or like I want vals to be on the front page of Hacker News. And then the funnel needs to connect. Like you need to see a val on Hacker News. You click on it, you maybe fork it, you learn what val.town is, you sign up for val.town, you make some cool vals. Eventually one of your vals is on the front page of Hacker News, and that infects other people with love for val.town. And then I'm, you know, off to the races. So that's like, that loop is what I'm focused on. And like there, like, and if I can achieve that sort of virality, then a lot of business things become a lot easier. Like GitHub or Dropbox or Slack, you know, like if you achieve product virality and it's like somewhat sensible how you would charge money for this from a business, it's like, it's not so hard. Or at least the investors I talk to aren't worried about it. Like I'm really like focused on my stage. Like you're asking me questions about, I have to succeed here before I have that
Good.
problem.
Okay. You're staying focused. That's good.
Steve, I'm fascinated about. I'm not sure if you see this as tangential or the same thing, but what seduces a programmer? Like, what is the article that gets to Hacker News that's like, oh, I want to read that article. And then it's like, oh, well, this article was about, I don't know, rewriting something in Rust gratuitously. And you're inspired to also gratuitously rewrite something in Rust. Or like it's an article about configuring Vim in some way, and you're inspired to throw away your perfectly functioning text editor and pick up Vim and configure it like from scratch yourself or something. It's like there are some things, some activities that are seductive for programmers. And
Totally.
like it doesn't really make sense a lot of the time to me. And you know, trying to pull the thread on like, why is it that people are doing this? Like, why as a community are people like expending their free energy on this kind of activity and then like telling their friends and they're doing it as well? Do you have a kind of feel on like, do you have a model of what programmers find seductive?
That's a good question. And we're not doing a great job of it, of making vals go viral at the moment. We have like we've gotten on the front page of Hacker News a bunch, but not in like a repeatable way. Let's see.
Well, I guess to me, it gets at like emotions that you might feel. I feel like the criticism of Hacker News, it's negative, very frankly, and like people are sort of like, I want to tear this down, or the classic Dropbox thing, you could build this in a weekend. I'm sure someone said that about Val, or they're going to, and yet sometimes you post something and it is just a delightful bit of computer history, and you have this very positive experience. So I don't know, it's like many things on the internet. It's like going to the basest human emotions, and that probably is true for the programmer class as well.
Yeah, like, so I guess one of like, in terms of baser things, like one of our most successful blog posts ever was talking about why we left Supabase and like what we didn't like about it and what we moved to, and that did unbelievably well on Hacker News, which is just like us kind of like tearing something down, which is, you know, we tried to do it really respectfully with the Supabase team, but still, it is appealing to that vibe in Hacker News. Let's see, what have I been trying? I don't know if you guys know Dan G, the moderator of Hacker News. His username is DANG, so some people call him Dan in their head. He's fantastic, and I often send him notes like asking for feedback on posts, like, why do you think this didn't go viral, or can you help me give this a second chance? I actually had the reverse happen when our like Hacker News follow bot was on the front page. Anything that's about Hacker News is demoted because it's like too much like catnip for the Hacker News community. So that was actually kind of a bummer, but you know, I think that's fair. We have a bunch of ideas on like how to.
I was just going to say, it's like sometimes it's frustrating that this is it's like the go-to place, and you like getting that, everyone feels that sense of pride. Oh, I'm number one, or I'm on the front page and everything. And I kind of wish there were some other outlets for this. Like I know there's Lobsters and things like that, but I've often longed, like I know GitHub on their front page is starting to have a sort of feed. And when I'm really bored, when I've gone through my Twitter and I've gone through even my LinkedIn, then I'm like, oh, let me go to GitHub and see what I can see here. I feel like
even my LinkedIn, Charlie, you're going through the LinkedIn feed.
As I'm a manager, someone might be sharing an interesting Harvard Business Review article that I'm gonna like. It's bad. So it's
Yeah,
bad.
well, so yeah, we have trending on val.town.
Okay.
So you can like vals, and I have a a little algorithm implemented in Postgres that just like does the number of likes plus if you have a README divided by like the amount of hours since you posted it squared kind of thing. Pretty straightforward algorithm.
Yeah.
uh,
That's from your data science
so
team, I'm sure.
yeah, exactly. No, it's from me. It's from me. It's
Right,
one
right,
line. It's like inline in code. Uh,
Hey Steve,
and it's getting better.
what do you
Like,
find fun? Like as a
right, yeah,
programmer, like
yeah, yeah.
what
So
is the
that
fun
I was gonna,
programming?
yeah, I was gonna say, Dan G, his biggest thing is if you're doing something for the purposes of virality, or if you're doing it as content marketing, it's not going to work. Like it has to be like in your heart, something that you intrinsically find fun. So the thing that we've been doing as a company is we've been reserving Thursdays. We skipped this Thursday because like we were all sick this week, but we've been doing Thursdays are make cool val days, and you can do whatever you want all day as long as you're like, we have to bar people from committing to GitHub because like sometimes it's easier to just like work on the product and it is like express yourself creatively and like make something with the
right.
product. But anyways, so we've been doing these make cool val days. So I can tell you, yeah, what I've been working on. So one of my passion project, one of my side projects is Date Me Docs. I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but I'm single, I'm dating, and so there's this practice where you create like a public Google Doc or Notion doc about. So yeah, it's like a Google Doc dating profile.
Mhm.
And I saw people making these, and so I made a database of them, just a Notion database of them called dateme.directory. And so I made like a series of vals around Date Me docs. So you can like poll for new ones if you want to get a notification when anyone submits a new Date Me doc. I have vals for that. I think I have a couple other Date Me doc vals. But I'm forgetting what those
You want to
were.
show us real quick what this looks like? Like if I wanted to peruse the date me doc directory, what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So dateme.directory is just like a link to my Notion site that explains what a date me doc is, and then it's just a directory of names and links, and it's like a Notion thing, so you can like filter and sort based on these parameters, and then like just to pick a random, I guess I should do mine because I don't want to like embarrass someone on this podcast. Like this is my date me doc, and it's not so long, not so short. There are ones that are longer, so some that are shorter. And you could like submit your date me doc, and yeah, some like FAQ stuff. I was just interviewed by the New York Times about date me docs, and it's causing a lot of drama in the date me doc world because there's this real tension between some people who like are like, it's a public website, the whole point is I want as many eyeballs as possible, like think like the New York Times interviewed you, great, like I'm excited. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like I was a little bit worried about this public HTML thing to begin with. The New York Times is way too many people, please delete my entry. So that's like what I've been dealing with in the last little while. But here, where's my, I wrote an essay about date me docs.
And are you going to show the cron job for
Yeah.
perusing this? Yeah.
Where is my, I think maybe I didn't publish it yet. Here,
Okay.
let me find the link for it. Because I think the reason I didn't publish it is because I just didn't feel like it was, yeah, I don't think I published it yet. One sec. I shouldn't feel like it was like gonna be successful, and so I just sat on it, but I can show it here. Okay, so the date me doc protocol, and like this article is about notifications, and I'm like branding date me docs more like a protocol, unlike a dating app. And so it's more like HTML and CSS, like it's all public basic technology, so you can build things on top of it. And so oh yeah, so the first thing I do is I parse out the HTML and turn it into a oh, fascinating. I turn it into a
We're gonna do some live
RSS feed.
debugging here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. Let me hit run and see. Or let me click on this. Here, click. Oh, I'm not logged in.
I feel like everything's a
Let's-
protocol. It's like the summer of protocols this year.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, everything's a protocol. Everything's an operating system. Everything's a protocol. All right, hit save. Let's see how long this takes. Okay, no, this time it did return. So it fetched all of the profiles out of the HTML. So I wrote this like fetch table val that fetches the content of a URL, like fetches the text and then parses out a table. So this like assumes that there's one HTML table on the page and the headers are headers. And anyways, just like a helper function I made for myself. That's like one of the things that people like about val.town. It's like a place to put all your little helper utility functions.
I would poke this val.
Yeah.
It's a good val. It's
Well, we're
pokeable.
adding comments. Like that might be next week. Like, well, so that it's likable.
Oh, there you go.
Already.
Okay, that counts.
We're adding
That
comments.
counts.
So you can like leave a comment like neat, whatever, fun, you know, or like I think a very common pattern we'll see. So I'm like the proto user of val.town, and like what I often do is I see someone's val and I'll want to comment on it, but I can't, and so I'll find some other way to contact them, and I will fork their val, change it, and then send them a link to my forked val. And I think that behavior will move into comments, and maybe we'll have a protocol for like mini pull requests. But anyways, that's a little bit speculative. This we just launched an hour ago, which I'm very excited about. It's here, I'll zoom in. It's at the bottom, we show you like the result of the last 5 runs. So like the last run had an error, but the 3 before that had no errors. This one had no errors. Yeah. So I like this little card of
That's cool.
past executions.
To
So
me, often, Steve, this one's so complex that I feel like you sort of do need a mental map sometimes, and like to actually show the sequence diagram. Is that something you're considering? Because I feel like I could potentially get lost.
Totally. Yeah, that's definitely required. Observable has a really, have you guys seen how Observable does this?
No.
I could, I don't know if you, I feel like I'll use TWMX because TWMX is cool. Like I know that I tweeted about this because when it came out, I don't see it. Observable had a dependency thing. Here we go. No, that's me tweeting about val.town. All right, I'll just go to Observable. All right, this I don't know if I should show this, but whatever. It's our it's our user growth chart.
Zoom in.
Like you said, I build in public. So here's this mini map that as far as I remember, it should, oh, here, yeah. So like I click on data and it says data is defined in terms of these other 2 variables. So if you click on something, it tells you like this is used in these 2 definitions. So it shows, the like, really cool. This data is like defined in terms of these things and used over here. That sort of view, I think, will be really good for val.town.
It also reminds me of like, oh, go ahead, Oz.
I was gonna say I like the compactness, clean design. They've obviously put a lot of thought into that. But it would be more fun if it looked like a Zachtronics game where you had all of the like nodes and the data like visually flowed from one to another, and you could like fast forward or rewind. That would be fun. Speaking of fun,
and there were small
why they did it like
There have been a bunch of people who have node and wire languages, and they've been embedding vals in those. We definitely have been getting a lot of that energy. We just are releasing our first real foray into like our API. Like we for a long time we've had an API where you can run vals via URL, but we're now releasing an API where you can get vals, list vals, search for vals, get likes, reference, like all the data via API, because like the community, they're programmers and they're into like tools, and so they're like really, it seems like there's a lot of pent up energy to make tools on top of val.town if we just give people the API for it. So I'm excited about like releasing that. Like for example, error notifications when your val errors. Like we could have built something that just tries our best to detect when your val errors and then send you an email, but like debounce it and throttle it based on various heuristics. But instead of doing that, we built an API that lets you query for past runs and filter for whether or not they errored or not. And so then 100% in user space, you can just pull every 15 minutes or every minute or whatever for new errors. And then it's 100% code. So you can, like, there could be like a bit like a marketplace of vals that people share about error notifications. So
Steve, are
I
you,
don't know why I went to that.
do you feel like you're living up like your dream life right now? Like you've been wanting to do this for a while now. You've got a company, you're doing it, you hired people. I saw you, Tom McWright is working with you, who's super cool. He like rates hills online, which I always love those blog posts. Like, you're doing it. Are you super happy?
Yeah. I am living the dream.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I'm asking this seriously as someone like I've always wanted to, like, I'm like, oh, maybe I should start a company and everything. And I just love how deliberate, and you've had many shots on goal here. And now it feels like, I don't know if like, is this the most momentum that you felt behind one of your projects, or is this, you're still sort of like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, I'm just curious about the headspace about where you're at right now.
Yeah, my headspace is that it's going quite well. Yeah, like recruiting Tom was definitely a highlight. And we have like a bunch of people who use it, and like a medium number of people who love it. Maybe small to medium number of people who love it. And I'm just like laser focused on, like, can I pull off the product market fit thing? Can I pull off the like 5% weekly growth every week thing? And it's like, it's almost mystical for someone who's like hasn't pulled it off. Like, I've been at companies that have it, and it's like cool, but it was an enterprise company. So like, I feel like there's something about pulling it off in consumer, and I feel like I'm kind of in consumer. So anyways, I maybe it's a hedonistic treadmill. You'll catch me in a year and I'll pull it off, and I'll still be like, like I have this new challenge that if I don't do this, like it'll all be for nothing. So yeah, I still feel
cool.
like
I was just saying, I love like an environment where, again, talking about meaningful work and everything, you're probably going to bed thinking about vals. You're probably waking up with a good idea for a val. Hopefully you're thinking about other things too, but I love that you've been imbued with a project where it's like, I just can't wait to get in front of a computer or put on my Apple virtual VR kit and like start coding on val.town. So I just want to say that I'm jealous. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, and it's also maybe not quite as as romantic as you paint it, because like it's a lot of like, am I working on the right thing? Like, is a team working on the right thing this week? Like, should I be focused on something else? Yeah, there's a lot of like doubt, and like there are things that I think might help us grow that like aren't fun to do, that I have to do anyways. So I'm totally living the dream. I wouldn't have it any other way, but I won't. I won't. I think maybe you're describing like the first 3 months when it was like, like I'm just hacking. I'm hacking away.
Do you have
today,
another
like
startup? Steve, do you have another startup idea where you're like, I need to just put this on the back burner until Val, like, have these other shiny ideas started to come in, or no? Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, there are things when I'm programming in val.town, I'm like, if only there was like an API that was like so easy to reach for, as like a user of val.town, and I'm trying to like kind of pull those from people. But yeah, I don't think I have a great answer to that question. But like an example is that like rate limiting is a common problem on val.town, and there was someone who made a full API. Maybe you saw this on Twitter, rlimit.com. It's like he built it on top of Cloudflare workers. It's like a mini API service, and it's a fun idea. I think it's like a small surface area that he can really polish. And so I've been like pulling like val.town specific compatibility features from him that would work well. So if val.town succeeds, I could see a lot of APIs being built for val.town, or like customizing themselves to be like well suited for val.town.
Cool.
Steve, what got you into programming?
Oh yeah. So I really fell in love with computers in like an IT sort of way. Like I just liked being the computer guy. Like I'd fix your internet or like get your photos off your camera kind of a thing. I got into magic too. Like I just liked being a person who knew something you didn't, so I could like help you do the thing.
And how
Yeah,
old
I
were
always
you
just liked arcane
when you had this? You were like
arcane
a kid,
knowledge.
or
Yeah, well, so like the story that I've been told that I don't remember is that like as a 3-year-old, my dad would ask me for help in the TV, and I think there's like a synergetic relationship between like a dad being helpless and a kid being fearless about technology that like kind of got me addicted to like helping people with technology. Uh, and yeah, like in 3rd grade, I was like the teacher's helper, like the IT guy, the IT kid. And then yeah, magic. I was like in my teenage years, and I guess where someone parlayed my interest in IT into an interest in computer science. So that's like the next part of the story. Like there was this
how
after
did that
school
happen?
program. Yeah, so there's this after school program near where I grew up called IMAX, the Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science, that really taught like mathematics and computer science. And they're like, we'll teach you about computers and programming. We'll get back to that. Like first, we're going to teach you computer science, and they never got back to it. It was a total like bait and switch. But I fell in love with computer science, and I don't know. Are you familiar with Seymour Papert
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Logo? And yeah, okay, great.
Mindstorm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was Logos what I learned, and then Scheme, and then Haskell, and then they like threw Java in there just so I could take the AP exam. And I went from being a kid who hated math and was bad at math and just generally like disengaged from school to being someone who really loved math and was good at math and like good at school. And I knew it had something to do with Logo and computer science, but I thought it was like an accident. I thought like, yeah, it was somehow an accident, and I was gonna like uncover what happened and recreate it. And then I read Seymour Papert in college, and I was like, oh my god, like this was all on purpose. It was like so on purpose. So that was pretty mind blowing, and that's like I guess that was 10 years ago when I read Mindstorms, and ever since then I've been really interested in programming languages and developer tools, changing the way your brain works.
So that's what it was at IMAX. You had a kind of does he call it Mathland, like the kind of surrounding environment of like wanting to be of like naturally picking up French. Is that what it was like at IMAX? That activation.
Yeah, it provided like the context for me to play with mathematical ideas. Like it programming in the right kind of math land, like in Logo, with the right kind of context. So you need so one thing, you need a teacher who can like engage with you on the one hand, and on the other hand, you need a computer to push yourself up against, because mathematics, when it's like pencil and paper, and like the feedback loop is like you hand in your homework to the teacher, and then like the next day or the next week you get like red marks, is like the world's worst video game. But like programming is an amazing video game. And like when you're programming JavaScript, it's not very mathematical, but there are like debugging techniques that you can learn that are mathematical. But Logo is quite mathematical, and it's good fodder for conversations with a teacher who can like guide you through that kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes
Oz, are you going to create a math land in Australia? Is that part of the vision down there?
Well, I feel like I'm doing this kind of thing for my kids, and then if that stretches to the broader community, then maybe. But yeah, at the moment it's very much like more physical science land, where it's like how can we have a surrounding. So Steve, I'm on a remote property in Australia now. We used to live in the Bay Area. Now we live in the opposite of the Bay Area.
Wow.
Which is like you can't see the neighbors kind of thing. And I think, and I'm going to homeschool, and I think the homeschool experience is basically going to be like recreating civilization, not quite from scratch because we have some aspects of it, but build as much as we can from the surrounding environment. So I feel like
I bought this because you tweeted about it, Oz, already.
Yeah, I don't know that book specifically, but that's that's.
Or did someone recommend it?
Yeah, someone recommended what.
Nice.
Okay.
But yeah, the
Yeah,
caveman
nice.
chemistry, I've been on a kind of
I can't find, it's all out of print. I can't find a copy that's not like $100, but I think I might just buy it.
oh, you can't find it on Abe or something?
Oh, I should look there. I mean, I
I
didn't
think
look
he
that
also just publishes it freely. So Steve, we're talking about a book that
far.
I've
Okay.
been obsessed with recently called Caveman Chemistry. That's like
Mm.
it's the guy uses it as a chemistry textbook, but it's basically like Nanta Tetris for the physical world. You know Nanta Tetris?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like chapter 1 of Caveman Chemistry, you start a fire. It's like, here are some good ideas for how to start a fire. And but then, everything builds on itself. And so like 4 or 5 chapters in, you're smelting bronze. And it's like you're using a crucible that you made in the pottery chapter, and as flux, you have potassium that you got from potash, that you got from your fire. This is just like Nanta Tetris of the physical world. Anyway, I feel like that kind of thing where it's not really instruction. It's more like a kind of set of challenges with feedback. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
chapter, there's a quality control. Did you actually get bronze? And sometimes it's like, did your fire start or not? And it's the same kind of like I don't know if he's intending it to be like an addictive feedback loop of I managed to create or not create a thing, but it is that feeling of like I'm getting feedback from the real world. I'm not just like balancing an equation and I'm being told by my teacher that it's right or wrong. And like, do I even care? Versus
And it's
the thing.
joint problem solving with the teacher. It's like you're encountering a scenario that the teacher is finding it challenging too. Which I think that's a key part of what Seymour paper says. Like the teacher doesn't have all the answers, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's interesting to think
Yeah.
about like how his perceived role of the teacher, or more so like people who've been inspired by Mindstorms, like how much they put attribute to the like environment versus like a mentor or a teacher figure there, like how important they feel that. Like some people are just totally people were talking about do you guys know the 42 school
In France?
in France? Yeah, there's
Oh
one in
yeah.
the Bay
Yeah.
Area too,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And it's just the environment.
yeah, it's
It's
just
like
like
the
there's
peer
no
group.
teachers. You just get a bunch of computer science problems for like 2 years or something,
Yeah.
and it's peer to peer, and you've just got a bunch of failing tests. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's fantastic and doesn't work for a lot of
Yeah.
people, but for the people for whom it works, it's gonna work so well. But then you're like,
Totally.
what if you added a teacher, just one teacher? It doesn't even need to be a teacher. It's just like someone who's excited about this stuff, who can like get you back on track occasionally. Just consider the
Yeah.
one teacher, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like a couple kids from the last session to like TA.
Yeah,
Right. Like,
something like that. But I
Steve,
wonder with val.town as well. Sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I wonder with val.town as well, like what role there is beyond the system as feedback. Like, is there, going back to it being the next new social network, is there also a kind of feeling that we want as programmers of like the community responding to what we've created, and like the
yeah.
demo scene people, it's like they can go into a cave for a month and come up with this amazing demo, but like if nobody saw it, would they still do it? Like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's the words even demo, and there's a scene. It's the demo scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like are you thinking about the environment versus the the scene, the community on val.town?
Yeah. Great question. Right now I'm just trying it all. Like we have a Discord that like I'm trying to foster and like cheer people on. And when people post their vows to Twitter or Hacker News, I'm trying to cheer them on there. And then we have like we have trending on val.town. So like we're trying to, but like nobody goes to trending on val.town to see except for me and like my team.
I might.
You might, yeah. Maybe
I'm
it'll,
checking
once you
LinkedIn,
get
all right?
bored of
So I'm
LinkedIn,
going
yeah.
there. So, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe we'll like, and then maybe there's like a way to like submit your thing for like it's ready to be demoed. Maybe that's like a thing, or maybe we could have like a hack week or like a competition that's like a bit more of a container for these things with prizes. And then like this isn't what you were saying, but more like on the other end of like community engagement, but like help. Like maybe there's a way to, like right now it's just again on the Discord, like, hey, I'm working on this val, like can anyone help me? And like it used to be just me, but now like other people are chiming in and helping. And then maybe if we had comments, there could be like some sort of protocol to like put in your val, like I need help. And then like in the comments, someone can like help you. I don't know.
I wonder
would
if
love,
there's a
like, I guess,
fundamental like Discord for you, like a kind of conflict where if I'm thinking, the conversation has made me think about like fundamentally, what do programmers find fun? And
yeah,
like it's easier to say, well, they like the non-enterprise stuff or whatever. They like the more playful things. But there's another aspect of it, which is that programmers like problems. Problems need to be challenging, at least the right level of challenging. And as you get better as a programmer, the problems get harder and harder to the point where we create kind of constraints for ourselves to make it fun at all. And so like the demo scene stuff, I think a lot of people find that fun because of the constraints of the environment, not just like showing off what they've created, but that it's resource constrained. And similarly, like there are code golf communities, and there are people who write things gratuitously in Rust, you know, for the challenge of having it in Rust, and like all these things where it's like you could have taken the easy approach, but that wouldn't have been fun. And so you took the hard approach. So I wonder if there's a conflict there for you, because a lot of what you're doing is making things easier to make them fun, right? Like I don't think it's fun to parse a website that changes all the time so that I can get a table of data. Like I like that you wrote that function for me. I will use that. I'll poke that. But but like, is there a conflict there between making things easier and so making them less fun? Like, what's the fun?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think you're totally right that there's a tension there. I guess like we're probably leaning into, it's fun to make something useful in the way that like making an NPM library or making an app is you're tracking like the things you want to show off are like how many people use your function, how many references you get, how many downloads you get or installs, how many people open issues, or like we want you to get off more on making something useful than making something clever. Although like there are constraints to val.town, and like people do exploit them, and like we go crazy for them. Like in the val.town readmes, you can embed photos. In the val.town Express API, you can return SVGs. And so someone came up with a way to construct SVGs via the val.town API and then embed val.town SVGs in val.town readmes. And so you can have like arbitrary fake buttons in val.town readmes. That was like an amazing hack on val. Yeah, so there is some limitation to the system that like, but it really is about usefulness and not about like code golf. There is an elegance to like writing a good val, but yeah, it's more about like racking up those references. And so like we just released a new API that lets you get references via the API. And so like that's another thing we want to have as a notification. Like anytime someone references your code, like maybe you want an email, like someone new referenced your code, like here's a link to it.
I have a couple things that are flowing through my mind. One is I can't remember the word. I was just trying to look up a thesaurus, but he worked with an education technology company, and we were talking about learning as kids, and he's like the best educational experiences, and he was talking about like hacking onto his computers at his school and everything. Is that the best education is like it's like a little bit insidious. You feel like you're doing something wrong. And that example you're talking, it's like, and you can learn something from doing wrong, and then maybe you can like use it for good, you can use it for evil, but you've had this breakthrough, and that is like the ultimate problem. So that was one thing. The other, Steve, again, I read a bunch of your site. I feel like your journey of I'm going to explicitly target stuff for kids, and I'm going to build tools for kids, and then eventually the kids are like, I don't want to play with toys. I want to be using what real programmers use. That is an interesting transition, I think, related to this conversation. And the last thing is, as you were talking before about that sort of community. And there was a tweet flying around, which was like Steve Jobs at some party in front of one of the Macs, like Andy Warhol and a kid were there. And the thing, I think, was like the personal computer was never personal. And I remember that too. My best experiences are me with my cousins surrounding me playing some video game together. And there's like a physicality with that that is related to this. And sorry for jamming in 3 separate comments, but I had a cue related to what you guys have been chatting about.
My callback function on
Great.
that as well is when I
Yeah.
I briefly volunteered to teach like Bay Area high school kids programming, and I just like walked into someone else's program, like someone else's curriculum, and they gave it to me, and they're like, "Oh, can you teach this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." You know, you've been doing this for a while, but it was like Python web development with Django, and all the kids are like, "How do I make a game out of this?" And how do I, like, the 2 questions were, how do I make a game out of this, and how do I put this on my phone to show my friends? And it's like, you know, making a web app with Django and learning about models and stuff, that's a little bit too real, I feel like. Where it's like, if you'd use Pygame, then maybe that was the intersection, right? You don't want to use Scratch because it feels like a toy. You know, you want to use something real like Python or JavaScript or whatever, but you want to be able to show your friends, you know, or play yourself, I guess. But even the game, I assume they wanted to like play the game with their friends or show their friends the game. I think there's definitely a kind of like, you get out of the social feedback loop pretty quickly as a professional software developer, where it's like, your code is meant to sit over there on that server. No one's meant to see it. It's just meant to like be a thing that runs by itself, and like there's less and less manifestation of it over time. You know, as you get better, you're more of an infrastructure engineer, or you do more system design or something. Like, it's the less exposure, I think, for a lot of people, myself included. I have to say, it's harder to find that fun sometimes. You gotta like manufacture more like opportunities to find that fun.
Yeah, it'd be a total dream for me to see val.town being used in classrooms, or maybe to start, it'd be better if val.town was used by students at home, or like in after-school programs, kind of, more like self-directedly. Like it hasn't happened yet, but I would love someone to tweet like, my kid and I sat down with val.town today, and here's what we made together. Like, I'm still waiting for that tweet. Maybe one of you guys will be the one.
Yeah, our kids are pretty young, but we'll do our best, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a 2-year-old. I got a 2-year-old that I actually have to go run and help right now.
Okay.
But maybe we can, Steve, this was awesome. I feel like we could, you 2 can keep going, or we'd love to have you back in a couple weeks or months and check in and maybe spend more time on computer history.
I would love that.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? Because I unilaterally am pulling
just one final thing. I could have told you this offline, but I might as well say it in the recording as well. Steve, you got to talk to the Hack Club guys. Talk to Zach Latta.
Yes.
Hey, Zach.
No, I don't. But I'm friends with the other co-founder, Jonathan, who left a long time ago. But anyways, I don't know Zach.
Yeah, we'll put you in touch with Zach. Also, cool. Charlie, we got to get Zach on the podcast.
Yeah.
Cool.
We do. All right, I'm gonna go make some vowels.